In 1962, a French geologist climbed into a cave in the Alps and told the world he'd be back in 2 weeks. He didn't come out for 2 months. Michel Siffre wasn't running an experiment on caves. He was running an experiment on time itself, and the only instrument he had was his own mind. No clock, no sunlight, no contact, just total darkness, and whatever was left of his sense of self once everything external was stripped away. What happened to him next is still cited in sleep and psychology research today. For the first few weeks, Siffre kept a rough sense of time. He'd guess when a day had passed, radio it up to his team on the surface, and he was usually close. But somewhere around week 4, something broke. His guesses started drifting. He'd estimate that only 45 minutes had passed when in reality 2 hours had gone by. By the time he emerged, thinking it was still mid-August, it was actually mid-September. His mind had lost over a third of the time that had actually elapsed, and he had no idea. This wasn't a one-off. Later, isolation experiments, including extended stays in Antarctic research stations and simulated space missions, found the same pattern again and again. Without light cues, the human brain's internal clock drifts to a cycle closer to 25 hours instead of 24. Every day, your sense of time silently loses a little ground. And normally, sunlight resets it. Take away the light, and the drift compounds until your entire relationship with time collapses. But time distortion wasn't the strangest part. It was what happened to Siffre's mood. He described stretches of overwhelming depression, followed by sudden euphoria, with no external cause for either. His personality seemed to be operating on its own private schedule, disconnected from anything happening in the world above him. Modern neuroscience has a name for part of this. Sensory deprivation doesn't just remove information. It destabilizes the brain regions that depend on a steady stream of outside input to function normally. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, the brain's master clock, relies almost entirely on light hitting the retina to stay synced. Cut that off, and it doesn't just get confused. It starts generating its own erratic rhythm, and your mood, hunger, and sleep all follow it down. Here's where it gets even stranger. In the 1950s, psychologist John Lilly ran experiments using sensory deprivation tanks. Warm water, total silence, total darkness, nothing to see, hear, or feel. Subjects, including Lilly himself, began reporting vivid hallucinations within hours. Some described complex visual scenes, some described voices, some described what felt like leaving their own bodies entirely. The brain, deprived of external input, didn't go quiet. It began manufacturing its own reality to fill the gap. This lines up with something researchers now call the brain's prediction engine. Your mind isn't just receiving the world, it's constantly predicting what should be there, and comparing that prediction to the incoming signal. Strip away the incoming signal entirely, and the predictions have nothing to correct against. Some neuroscientists argue hallucination isn't a malfunction in this state. It's what your brain was doing all along, just usually kept in check by real sensory data. So the mainstream explanation for isolation's psychological effects is fairly complete. No light, no circadian anchor, no sensory input, no correction for the brain's constant predictions. Time distorts, mood swings, hallucinations emerge. All explainable, all documented, all consistent across dozens of controlled and accidental isolation cases. But one thing still doesn't fully add up. Some subjects, including several long-duration cave and polar isolation participants, report a profound and lasting sense of clarity afterward. Not distress, but what they describe as one of the most meaningful periods of their lives. Researchers still don't have a clean explanation for why total sensory collapse breaks some minds and seems to sharpen others. The mechanism looks the same on paper. The outcome isn't. Somewhere between Siffre's disorientation and the accounts of quiet peace, there's a question neuroscience hasn't closed yet. What your mind actually is. Once you take everything else away, you'll probably never spend 2 months in a cave. But every time you close your eyes in a silent room and your mind starts filling in the blanks, you're getting the smallest possible taste of what's waiting in there when nothing else is competing for its attention.